Hi, I'm Daniel Mackerel, Mayor of Campaspe Shire. I'm here today with Ann Gardner from the Bourne area as a dairy farmer and also Councillor Marwood. What they'll be doing today is having a discussion on water buybacks.
How you going, Ann?
I'm going really well, thanks, Tony.
So many of us for a long period of time have been advocating not to have water buybacks. Unfortunately now we have water buybacks. Could you start by giving us a quick overview of your operation, and then let's have a conversation about how we're going to deal with it now that we're going to have to deal with water buybacks.
So we've been here for 35 years on this farm and grown from milking about 200 cows and had our first child the day after we moved here. So now we're milking a bit over 1,000 cows. We've got 1,300 acres, 1,400 acres, and we use just under 4,000 megs a year to grow feed for our milking herd. We employ 12 people, and we're really passionate about our community and having a future, because our sons come home into the business, and I know from the footy club there's quite a few young fellas that have come home, so I think about them when I'm thinking about water and the future, and I think about our community. And so when I think about buybacks, I think of all the negative impacts it has for people that don't have water to sell. So I could sell all my water, clear my debts, and walk away. But what's that do for the supermarket in town? What does that do for a fridge mechanic?
Tractor salesman, it goes on and on.
They haven't got a meg of water to sell, and their business is going to be impacted. So when I think about buybacks, and when I talk to Tanya Plibasek about it, I've talked about our communities, and that really worries me. And so people who choose not to sell water, they're going to be impacted because all of those costs of running this channel here and all the other channels through here are going to go up, because I'm going to have to pay for someone else, and there'll be less water in the pool available for me to buy to grow my feed base. So it's going to cost me more to be in business. And if there's less farmers, it means that the refrigeration mechanic, his business viability is going to be on the line as well. So all of those things, and I fought really hard against buybacks, and I know everyone in Victoria has pushed back against them. But it's all been changed. The legislation went through despite our best efforts. So I think now we need to be doing things to try and have some structural adjustment, or at least some funding that will help our communities to keep going into the future and keep hope for the young ones that are in our communities.
So New South Wales has a structural adjustment package. South Australia has a structural adjustment package. Victoria has nothing. There's not even a conversation, we believe, that's going on that will support our communities going forward. The amount of money they're talking about is a band-aid. We need massive investment to compensate for what we're about to lose, and we need massive amounts of support so we can work out a plan how we can adjust.
And I've certainly spoken to the Victorian Department of Agriculture recently and said that we might be against it, but there's nothing to stop anyone in Victoria in the Southern Basin from selling their water, whether they're New South Wales or Victoria or South Australia.
So they've started buying. We believe this year, by the end of this year, they'll have 146 gigalitres of water out of the Southern Basin. We also know that there's 13 gigalitres that's coming out of the Golden. So you and I are both irrigators. We can't trade our water into Valley, but somehow
they can.
So I'm not quite sure how. There's a rule for them and there's a rule for us, so I'm not quite sure how that all works.
Well, one of the things that I see and I keep pointing out is that the dairy industry is an apex industry around here. It's the big driver of economies in all of our small regional towns. And it's also a big driver of Campaspe Shire's economy as well, because we pay a lot of rates. And so the little amount that's on the table in New South Wales and South Australia, it doesn't compensate for the economic impact of the dairy industry in our shire.
So potentially we can lose a couple of $1 billion out of our economy, and they're talking about maybe 150 million to fix that. I don't think that's going to work somehow.
No, and if you look at it this way, there's been some research done years ago that said every dairy farmer spends about 80% of their milk check within 100 k's of their business.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did some rough sums on 6 big dairy farms of sort of similar size to us, and I came up with a figure of $20 million that we spend within 100 k's of Balmain every year.
Yep.
So, you know, if we go out of business because of water buybacks, is the federal government going to put $20 million just in our area every single year?
Highly unlikely.
What industry is going to come in and drive that sort of economy and the number of jobs? And that's just here. Then if you go to Shepparton, where our milk is, you know, all the people that work in the processing factory there and the flow-on impact that has into the supermarkets, the schools and everything else. So one of the things that I've worked on in the last year or so has been trying to come up with what sort of things that we would like the federal government to do that would help dairy businesses make up the money that they'll lose from the cost of buybacks to maintain that production into the future and keep those jobs going everywhere and keep that economic activity, because I can't see what other industry is going to take our place in the short term.
Yeah, and for Campaspe Shire, right, our irrigation footprint is massive.
Exactly.
So it will be a massive impact, right? So we start losing businesses, industry, towns like Echuca start to fade, towns like Stanhope disappear. So the potential impact, and they're bigger communities, not our small ones. So we're really fearful, and we need to do a lot of work to make sure that we are fairly compensated. And
I think we need to get more people at the table to talk about, brainstorm all the opportunities. So one of the things that I did say to AgVic was, if we had more money to help us with, say, electricity generation on farm and things like that, then we can sort of reduce those costs to compensate for the increased costs for running the irrigation system. So, you know, it doesn't have to come as a compensation for or a structural adjustment. We just need to have a broad view on how we can keep dairy businesses functioning and growing and creating the jobs, creating the wealth that we all benefit from in our communities. And like it's hard enough to get a doctor now. Imagine if there's half the number of us. We won't ever get a doctor, will we?
No,
so,
exactly
you know, it's all those things that dairy and irrigation does for our communities that add to the vibrancy and the social fabric that we have.
Right, and we have fantastic, strong communities, and we just want to keep them alive.
Exactly. We're on the same hymn sheet, and we just need to get more people to the table and recognise it and brainstorm solutions.
That's true. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming. It's been great to listen to all the things that you've had to say today. It's very much appreciated.